What's going on, turds? It's Adam Warner from the studio of Adam Warner, bringing you a design walkthrough. So it's not so much meant as a tutorial, but more of just, hey, this is me working on a project. This is what my workflow looks like. Here are some tips and tricks as I go along. And yeah, that's pretty much my little intro. Let's dive right in. Today we're going to work on a wedding invite, and it's for a couple friends of mine, and they want a postcard style invite. So we're gonna make a 5x7 postcard, and we're gonna make some of it in Photoshop and some of it in InDesign. So before you get started, I would recommend for any print project that you work on to figure out where you're printing it first, and then either go onto their website and get the specs. Sometimes they even have templates you can download and build into that file, or get in touch with their customer service and figure out what their specs are. It makes your life a lot easier if you do it up front. And so I'm using Jukebox, who is a printer out of Vancouver, BC. That's exactly where my friends live, so they can actually go and pick up the printed files when it's complete. So that'll save them a little bit of money. And I love Jukebox. Also, I know what all the specs are, so I don't need to download a template or anything like that. So let's start this puppy up. We're going to go into a new document. We're doing a 5x7 postcard. Oh, look, this is already set up. You know why? Because I just recorded all of this and my program crashed. So this is the third time I'm making this invite. Anyways, so if we're doing a 5x7, we're going to build bleed into InDesign. Photoshop doesn't have bleed, so we need to do it manually. And so if our industry standard bleed amount is 1/8 of an inch, you want to add that to each side, both vertically and horizontally. So 1/8 of an inch times 2 is 1/4 of an inch. So that's why I have 5.25 by 7.25. We're doing a print file, so we want a resolution of 300 pixels per inch, and we want it to be CMYK color. So, do you want me to show you what we're making here? No, I won't. Let's keep it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go see if my recorder is recording. It must be, right? Should we just trust it? Okay, so we're gonna make this. We're making kind of like an old school vintagey scientific illustration type invite. And it's based off of this image. This is a fern, which are really hard to grow. I kill every fern that's entered my house. I had one for a little while. It was like a mini fern. It was really cute. And it was going so good. And because what I'll usually do is I'll move a plant around my house to see where it likes to live. And I had found it. It was on my mantle in on my fireplace. It loved it. And it was going along good for like 3-4 months. It was going along well. And then one day, well, it was more of like over the course of a week or two, it just didn't want anything to do with life. But alas, so I don't buy ferns anymore. So what I'm going to do, I want to expand this background out. And so what you saw me do there was just, because I'm going to use content aware fill, I didn't want those shadows, those kind of gradients, because then my content aware fill would use those as a reference and it would create these weird patterns. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my marquee tool and I'm going to slowly build the background out. And so if I hit Shift F5, it pulls up content aware fill. Let me just show you where else to find it. Under Edit, Fill, it's going to be your first option. You just hit OK. So you want to do it bit by bit. Basically, I think a rule of thumb, I don't know if this is true, but this is from my personal experience. You want to extend out only as much as the background that you can see. So you see, I did that amount, and now I can go double that probably. Yes. It's creating some ripples and some patterns, but I'm going to show you how to get rid of those when we're done. Also, inspired by this kind of old vintagey illustration, we are going to we're going to use a paper texture over top of everything because I don't love this creamy blown out color so much, and I want to have more control over it. So that's going to hide some of these imperfections, but I will show you once we get clipping along here another couple ways to get rid of those. So I wasted my fern story already, and I'm hesitant to pause my recorder because it crashed the last time. Man, it was so good too. My one-liners were working really well. I had a couple zingers, and then I opened it up, or I thought I went to open it up, and I realized it didn't record, and I was heartbroken. But what are you gonna do? I'm trying to finish all this before the Yankees game. This game 1 of ALCS tonight. Can't believe they beat the Cleveland Indians. I thought for sure the Indians would have taken it, and they rightfully should have. I mean, they were up by 2 games, and they were a strong team, and they just kind of beat themselves. Not that the Yankees aren't talented. I mean, this year they have some amazing young talent, and they have a couple veterans to help those rookies, but I don't know. I just thought the Indians would take it. Here was my bracket. I had and in the American League, I had the Indians versus the Astros for the ALCS. And then in the National League, I had the Dodgers versus the Cubs. And then for the World Series, I had Cubs versus Astros. And then the winner, do you guys know who I think is going to win? I think it's going to be the Astros. Even though they're playing my Yankees. I think I went to an Astros game earlier this year. Actually, I went to an Astros Cleveland game with a few friends, and down in Houston, and it was unreal. Like the atmosphere in that building, and the roof was up, or down. The roof it was covered by its roof, and it was unreal. And the team is just so exciting to watch. I'm sorry for people who don't like baseball. I bet you if you don't like baseball, watching baseball, then listening to somebody talk about baseball is even less appealing. And I'm kind of sorry, but I'm also not really, because I needed to talk about something while I did this. So this is gross. Look at all this. But that's okay. We're going to fix it. Oh, that's really gross. I don't even know if we can fix that. Of course, like the time that I have to go and redo it, I've made a mess of it all. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks. So the first thing I'm going to do, and sorry, I keep looking over there. That's where my original is. Hope I'm not creeping you out. So I'll finish that up. So there's a few things we can do to kind of fix some of these blemishes. So one thing you can do is just use, it's my dog. You can go over sections with the content aware fill again, just be a bit more specific. And it didn't really work there. What's a better example? Is this one? Or you can use the clone stamp tool. which is S on your keyboard. If you don't want to be destructive about this, you could have done this all on a new layer, but I don't care. So you see what happened there? What you can do with the clone stamp tool is you hold down Alt. Oh my God, my computer's chugging here. We hold down Alt on this section, and then you place it over there. So see all this gross stuff? I'm going to get rid of that. So if I hold on Alt over here, boom. Pretty cool, huh? You know what? Why don't we just wipe all this out too while we're at it? So we're losing the personality of that texture a little bit here, but I'm going to drop that other. Oh my God, let me finish my thought here. I'm going to drop that paper texture over top, and so it doesn't matter quite as much. I'm being incredibly lazy having to do this again. I'm sorry. So we've lost quite a bit of the personality of that, but I'll show you why it doesn't matter so much. So we have this paper texture. Yep, that's the paper texture, which kind of looks like a lunch bag. It looks a little too much like a lunch bag if you ask me, especially considering we're doing a wedding invite. It's kind of low brow, but we can, okay, so see, we're really relying on the texture of this more so than the paper texture of this. So it didn't matter so much that there was all those kind of ripples and stuff like that. So anyways, I like the texture. I don't love the brown. So what I'm going to do is put on a adjustment layer. I'm going to pull the saturation out a bit. And now, so this I set to multiply. I don't know if you guys, I didn't mention that out loud. Kind of rushing through here. I set that to multiply, and I'm going to drop the opacity down a little bit. There, that's good. And so that's washed out our fern a little bit. So I'm going to bump up the curves. You know, the last time I just did this, I had a really funny ferns curve joke. I am going to get rid of, I'm using my little stamp tool again. What? So that was a squirrel, I think. I have a sunlight. What are they called? Like a window on the roof or in the ceiling. And I think a squirrel just scrambled across it. Yep, that's how exciting it is in the old studio, guys. There we go. Awesome. Oh, and you know what else I'm going to do? The saturation is pulling out color from my fern. So I'm just going to hold down Alt and make sure it applies only to the paper texture. And now I'm going to put these in a folder together. Man, I went on a big rant about folders in the last one. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about it. It's over. Get over it, dude. Get over it, man. I keep checking to see that program is still working. Image. I'm going to name this image. I'm going to name it Fern Image. Cool. Okay, so let's start adding our type. I'm going to start a new folder called text, and then add my text inside of here. Megan. And I'm going to use Brandon Grotesque, which I love still to this very day. Let's bust out that tracking a little bit. Okay. So I have a green already saved from the last file. I know I said I wouldn't talk about it. And all I did was pull it from here. And you'll notice once we do our last step, which is pulling the paper texture over top of everything and having it apply to the whole design, it's going to kind of sync this green up even more to that and make it feel a little more cohesive. So in the meantime, I am going to align this by selecting all and hitting the align. And then I'm going to copy it by holding down Alt and dragging it down. And then I'm going to write Alistair's name here. They both spell their names incredibly. They wanted to use all the letters. Well, they didn't choose, did they? Their parents did. I know of 4 ways to spell Megan, maybe 3. That's the longest way. I know of 2 ways to spell Alistair, and I always spell that one wrong. However, I'm learning. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm rushing through this. I feel like everything I'm doing is pretty basic here so far. That is really gross. Okay. And I'm keeping my stroke cap to circular there because the edges, the corners of the Brandon Grotesque typeface are circular. So you want to feel like they're part of the same. They all live in one happy family together. Speaking of happy families, do you know what I just started watching? Jersey Shore. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So my girlfriend and I, we got hooked on this show called Siesta Key, and that was her friend recommended it, and I love garbage television. I don't watch television to be like enriched. You know, for me, it's absolutely pure entertainment, and I love the garbage stuff. So we watched Siesta Key, and then that was our gateway. Well, that was my gateway. And then my girlfriend was like, "Hey, have you seen Jersey Shore?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not." And we watched it, and I'm in love. So I use groups because I like to be organized, but also because it helps you align stuff. You know, I can align that whole section now using the align tool, and I can move them around like they're one thing instead of selecting different layers or trying to select them all in here. So that is one of the values of having folders. Let's put the date in, and I'm going to put a fake date so you guys don't go to this wedding. I'm sure they'd love to have you. It's a Christmas wedding, which is kind of I said fake date, and then I put the actual date. Or is this the actual date? If you I don't know why that was funny. If you if you have a layer selected and you hold down or you hit Command T, you'll get your transform tool. and then you can hold down Shift and adjust it. You probably knew that already. You know why that was funny? Because I work by myself, and you develop a weird sense of humor when you work by yourself all day and your only friend is a dog. Your studio manager is a dog. Okay, I'm gonna make this corally red-ish. Okay. I had select all selected. I had everything selected, so it didn't let me do what I wanted to do. Now, so I changed the hue. We'll up the saturation and we'll increase the brightness. Bam, that is perfect. Maybe a bit brighter. You can see it's pretty Christmassy, right? But I checked and it's a Christmas wedding, so this is fine. It's not fine, it's they wanted this. I don't know why I got so defensive to myself. Okay. I'm going to add a key line to this date just to kind of balance this. We're going to use our lovely little forest green. I'm going to hit A and then increase the stroke width or weight. Okay, that's cool. Command A. What am I doing here? Let's rename this keyline. And if I hit A again, I can pull this anchor point over. And if I hold down Alt, duplicate the layer. If I put these both into their own group, folder, call it keyline. Now I can align that. She looks good, guys. Yeah. So I'm gonna put these in order as if it were a big file. As if it were like important that I kept them in order. Oh my gosh. And then we're gonna make a bottom folder. And again, I do these so I can move these elements all as one group. If you guys know of a better way, I'm all ears. I'll probably keep doing it the way I do it. Maybe not. But would love to hear, if not for me, for other people watching. Okay, Trade Gothic, my favorite font of all time. If I could only have one font. If I could only have one thing the rest of my life, I would pick Trade Gothic font. That's pretty pathetic. No, what would I pick? What would I pick? A thing and not a person. I don't know. That's too much pressure. So I would very much recommend, did I say this already? That you don't type things out directly into a file because you're human, you're prone to make mistakes. And reduce the chance of mistakes at every step of the way, especially for a print file. Regardless of whether it's your responsibility to proofread or not, just be careful. And one of the best ways to do that is to copy and paste directly out of a copy deck or even just have a program open like Grammarly, or even just your email client and start a new message, and it'll autocorrect everything for you and then copy and paste it out of there. I had a web developer teacher really tried to hammer that home once, and apparently it worked. Okay. So I use like an old school mouse. It's better on my hand, maybe. I just prefer it because I'm a Luddite in certain ways. Oh man, but every once in a while it just loses connection. There we go. Love and marriage. Cool. That doesn't look aligned. Is it aligned? It was. So computers are aligning things perfectly for us all the time, but you'll notice that our eyes, it's just a balance thing, and you would have learned this in design school. But you want to adjust things based on what your eye is perceiving and kind of little optical illusions that happen. So alignment tools are great for a starting point, but always make sure you kind of go through and use your brain, because your brain is, I don't know your brain personally, but trust it. I would trust it. It seems to be okay. Your brain seems cool. Okay. Well, this is it, guys. The last thing I want to do is bring this paper texture above everything, and you'll notice, did you notice? My type gets a little darker. Right? And it kind of makes this cohesive, like, hey, this was a vintage invite that we found. I put it in that folder. So that's it, guys. That's the front cover. I am going to drop this into an InDesign file. A 2-page InDesign file. This would be the front, and then the long copy with all the details of the wedding will be on the back. I am not going to show that because I don't think it really... What am I doing? I'm just going to stop doing things. I don't think it really does anything for you guys. We can talk about setting up print files in InDesign in another video. This one's getting long already. So this was just kind of doing the front cover, using Photoshop to do some layout, some tips and tricks on using an old image, extending a background, using texture and multiply layers. I'm kind of mixing up all 3 videos I did. I think I said everything I wanted to. You're also caught up on the baseball playoffs, so you're welcome for that. If you like this video, guys, please give me a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Leave a comment, feedback, questions, topics you want me to talk about, other sports teams you're interested in, why the Yankees are doing so well, whatever. Either way, I appreciate you watching very much, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.